Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today for my stretch series. Here I'm just going to go over a few exercises that I like to do at the end of the day. My work hours are typically long and I stand a lot and I move a lot as a physiotherapist, so I usually feel a lot of tension in my low back. These are some of my favorite stretches that I like to do at the end of the day. The reason for these stretches is nothing specific. This is purely to show you any movement that you do is beneficial. I did not pick these stretches because they are superior to other stretches or there's evidence behind it, but it's purely to show you that you can just find a mat and a floor and complete these stretches. So here I like to start by my diaphragmatic breathing. I have posted a video previously on my Instagram, so check it out so you know exactly how to do it. But basically you place a hand on your tummy and one on your chest, and the aim here is to breathe in through your nose, filling up your tummy, and when you breathe out through your mouth you really want to empty all the air out of your stomach. So here is when I start to basically go into some physiological movement of the spine, which is your side bends or side flexions as we like to call it, and really stretch those tissues around your ribs to the side. Then again going into a forward flexion and forward bend, trying to reach to my end range and repeating that a few times as far as I can go. I'm not here to push through pain, just to relieve some tension in my back. I typically like to go into this forward position. It just relieves some of that back tension for me. Again, we have another physiological movement of the spine, which is extension or going backwards, and I repeat my forward bend and so this one's actually one of my favorite movements or stretches, where I go into a deep-seated hip flexion or a squat, and basically it's just for hip mobility. Then it is followed by just grabbing onto the back of my legs. That would stretch your hamstrings, and I go back into my hip mobility, just really trying to open up that hip, especially if you're somebody who sit for long hours. So from here on, I'm taking some of the yoga poses, but I'm butchering it because I'm not a great yogi. But really, I went to a tabletop position and I went to this pigeon pose, I think it's called, but in the physio world we call it the piriformis stretch. Basically, you're stretching your glutes, and then I like to add my physiological movements and rotate my spine side to side. It's really trying to get into all of the angles that my spine allows me to go into whilst I'm stretching my hip and glutes. So here I'm going into this like angry cat camel position, which basically you're activating a little bit of your core, but then you're really getting into those spinal movements and stretching your spines into extension and flexion. Then I go into this downward facing dog, I think it's called in yoga, and really it is to stretch your calf muscles. I hold each position as long as it serves me and it feels good. Really no recipe to how long you should hold the position. In this position, I try to go into this kind of hip flexion stretch, or what some of the physios like to call a psoas stretch. Basically, I'm doing some posterior pelvic tilts to really stretch that psoas muscle, and then I go into my pigeon pose or my piriformis stretch on this side, because I did the right side and I didn't do the left side. Again, adding my spinal rotations and staying in this position until it serves me and I feel like everything feels nice and stretched and supple. Here I end up in my child pose position, which is one of my favorite positions to go into. I just feel like it really relieves that stress in my low back. And I just finish up with some random movements, the cat camels again, just because I hold a lot of tension in my low back. And basically here I'm just repeating everything that I've done so far just to get a last good stretch. Here I like to finish off with some hamstring stretches. I just go and allow my knee to kind of straighten into the floor and try to really push down to get a full knee extension or get my knee straight as possible, just because I know I've got really tight hamstring muscles. And then here again I'm going into those posterior pelvic tilts to get that hip flexor stretch once more. Really, as you can see, there are no recipes to these stretches, how many times you should do it or how long you should hold it for. I just tried to stretch every body part, starting from the spine to the hips to the hamstrings to the calves. So I really hope that you enjoyed this stretch series, and if you like for me to make more videos, please comment below.